morning, good afternoon and good evening to everyone wherever you may be tuning in today's episode from around the globe. We are here at the 2025 ARA Show in Las Vegas. It's been a truly amazing week here in the United States, but unfortunately, everything must eventually come to an end. Today, finalising our stellar schedule, having brought forward such amazing stories, career journeys, industry insights, perspectives and opportunities for education for the global rental community. This being our eighth and final episode of our ARA Show series. And speaking of legends, you could say we've saved the best till last. A tool shed equipment rentals based in Santa Cruz, California, which was initially founded 80 years ago, incredibly dating back to 1945. Fun fact, a tool shed has officially been in business for longer and prior to the forming of the United Nations. The Pedersen family has been described as true pioneers of the United States equipment rental industry, possessing an incredible ability to look ahead, seeing future trends, and have successfully preserved their customer-centric and customer-focused approach, growing now to 8 locations across the Greater Bay Area, now going into a 4th generation, having successfully navigated, developed, succeeded, and solidified a legendary status within the equipment rental industry. Now to our guest, Robert Pedersen, officially starting his rental journey back in 1983. But as we all know, the working life in a family rental store starts at a much younger age. Being truly born into the world of rental, and some would say born for this, which I'm sure that we'll touch on later. In 2024, recently being inducted and honoured as the American Rental Association's president-elect, and this week stepping in as the 63rd president of the American Rental Association. A true expert on all things rental, business, family, succession planning, cigar specialist and an innovator looking towards the future of the US rental industry. Robert, congratulations on your week and welcome on the Rental Journal.
Thank you very much, Scott. Glad to be here.
Robert, taking a deep dive into your background, to conversations with Scott Irwin, Tom Wood back home in Australia, and many folks over the past week here in Las Vegas. What a truly unparalleled story, rich history a tool shed equipment rentals has had in California. Honestly, I don't even know where to start. Like I mentioned, 80 years. And Robert, the business didn't originally start as a tool shed, did it? It transitioned in the mid-60s, but what are your earliest memories of your family's rental store, and what did a tool shed look like in the early days?
Well, it actually started by my grandparents back in 1945 after the end of World War II. They came out to California because it was like the growing area after the war. They started a Army surplus store. It's called White Elephant Sales at the time. And they started it from the ground up, built the building, and they would purchase containers from the military, not knowing what was in them. So the containers that get dropped off, they'd open it up, whatever was on the inside, since they were Army surplus, that's what they had to sell for the next several months, whatever it happened to be, before they bought their next container. Well, at one point, a container generator showed up. And they weren't sure they were going to be able to sell these generators. It's like, what are we going to do with all these things? So they started renting them out to people because people didn't want a generator at that time to keep in their house for a long period of time, but they did need them because the big boom was obviously in the West Coast at that time. So they started renting them out, and within 3 years, White Elephant Sales became A Tool Shed Equipment Rentals, and it was basically listed as A in the phone book at the time. Not Yellow Pages, nothing else, but it was the phone book. And it was listed as A so that we would be first in the phone book. And later on, when the Yellow Pages came out, we were still listed as A, not A Tool Shed or anything else, it was just A. And then our ad was underneath it with A Tool Shed and stuff like that. It lasted for years with that marketing ploy. So it was good, but that's kind of how we got started early on into the rental industry.
So what has been this evolution now? Obviously starting back over 80 years ago, 8 decades, but what do you guys specialize in now?
Well, now we're mostly the small contractor, homeowner, landscaper, and industrial equipment. Changing the shift a little bit to some of the larger stuff at this point because the homeowner market's kind of slacked off after COVID. So we've kind of shifted our stuff to a little more of the industrial, trying to get some more we've started to get some government contracts from our area, trying to chase down things like that. So Our fleet's changing up a little bit, getting a little bit larger equipment and doing away with some of the smaller handheld tools that were the backbone of our business for years was the homeowner small tool type stuff. But that's drying up a little bit for us. Home Depot's come in and a couple others that have kind of taken that market with not just with the rental part, but mostly with the inexpensive hand tools. And the disposable economy, things like that. So it's really taken that small stuff out of the market for us.
Robert, you really specialise with an extensive inventory and wide selection of rental tools to suit, like you said, that everyday novice to the do-it-at-home, do-it-yourselfer, and the experienced local contractors to now even government projects, prioritising a fast delivery service paired with an expert team of knowledgeable and what you described as courteous rental specialists. Robert, how important has your group of expert team members over the duration of your 80-year history influenced the success of your business?
Oh, tremendously. We sell service. That's our product. We sell service. We happen to rent equipment, but we sell service, and that's the backbone of our business, and it always has been. So the employees are number one because they are the ones that are facing our customers. They're the ones taking care of our equipment and everything else that allow us to sell our product, which is service to our customers.
Robert, I'd love to dive into the US rental market and the demand drivers that you're seeing. Firstly, watching on from back home in Australia, there seems to be such an increase in drive of these large-scale mega projects, such as the Tesla gigafactories, new lithium-ion refineries to process the trillions of dollars of lithium, which has been found in Nevada and Arkansas, with the initial construction programs really engaging hundreds of equipment rental providers, not only for the initial construction, but also for these additional downstream construction projects from camps, research facilities, utilities, housing, and also needing equipment for this second tier going into the mini cities that they're constructing, and then the annual maintenance as well. It's just exponential growth for the industry as a whole. But Robert, with a lot of these mega projects engaging the national or bigger regional players, what has this done to the independent?
I don't think it's really affected the independents that much. The large rental companies, LRCs, yes, they do get their market share of those big projects. I think it leaves an opening for more independents to actually get into the market as the large companies, focus on those bigger projects. It leaves a gap where the equipment might be needed in a small market area that the large rental companies are not going to focus on now that they're focusing on some of these big projects that are going on across the country. I had the opportunity to visit one out in Arizona. It was in Arizona, and I could not believe the size of this project, and it was for one of the chip manufacturers. Massive. Just acres and acres and acres, and there's lots of opportunities. And you brought up the cities that are going to be built around them. Yes, definitely, it's a changing world. So here in the U.S.
Something I really wanted to dive in with yourself, like you said, that homeowner market has really stagnated in 2023 and 2024 and was such a backbone of independent and small rental companies here in the US. With the increase of these lower cost hand tools at the Home Depots or back home in Australia, our Bunnings stores anyways, but with recent increases in rates, interest rates, a lack of remodeling and reduced landscaping work has really impacted the rental industry here in the US. Brian Richardson, ARA Region 2 Director, and Steve Hauser, the ARA Region 6 Director, both expressed the same viewpoint on the impacted DIY projects in both the Mid-Atlantic and Upper Midwest regions. You also mentioned that the hybrid work schedule is here to stay, for better or for worse, but expressing that in your opinion it tends to bring in a larger pool of talent to draw from. But on the flip side, you've seen office occupancy in the major cities down 50%, with many folks looking to move out of the congested cities has had a real ripple effect on the local economies, with a lot of these local restaurants, bars, convenience stores in the downtown areas that might have been really focused on that office-based customer have all been forced to close. So Robert, how have you seen the homeowner market change and its flow-on effect to not only the rental industry, but the state-based discretionary spend in California?
Oh, it's been huge in California, especially in my area. I'm in Silicon Valley. And we have been greatly impacted by it after COVID. Now, don't get me wrong, we did very well during COVID with a lot of DIY projects and people doing that. But as soon as it was over, with the interest rates on homes and the house pricing in our area being so high, nobody's moving. Nobody's selling their home. It's a very stagnant market, as you had said. We also had the combination of a lot of the tech industry moving out of California. We've lost Tesla. We just lost. What else did he take out to Austin? Was the SpaceX was in our area. That's gone. So a lot of people are moving out into other areas, mostly Texas. Austin has drawn a lot of people because of the business-friendly environment that those other states have offered that California no longer offers. It's just too expensive, and so they're moving out, and they're taking their talent with them, which means it's a much smaller pool to deal with. A lot of empty buildings, like you brought up. San Francisco is a great example. We've lost several, chain stores that used to be the central hub of a major city that was at one point the most beautiful city around, and it's just not now. It's empty. It's a different feel in California, in Northern California, where I'm at. I don't see a change until the interest rates come down just a little bit. I think as soon as they get down to 6% or lower, right in that range, and stay that way, stay stable for a while, and some of the housing prices stabilize. They've got to come down a little bit in our area and be a little more stable before people start selling their homes and feel comfortable in moving and getting that market to move again. Then we'll see the remodels, the construction, and things like that that'll pick back up. I don't see that happening for another 2 years. Maybe a little bit in 2025, but it's mostly going to be 2026 before that's going to really start moving. So,
Robert, in today's modern landscape, we are so used to the instant gratification and, lack of a better word, but Amazonification of online purchases, online bookings, and same-day delivery options are kind of the norm now in 2025. But as you and I know, a box of laundry detergent doesn't have the same logistical challenges or delivery requirements as a 120-foot boom or a skid steer. Robert, what are your current challenges in meeting the developing or diverging customer requirements in regards to service convenience, speed, staffing, and this instant need of availability increasingly important to customers?
It is, and we've seen it. We've seen it quite a bit in our industry. The demand is like, we want it now, okay? And we try to get our deliveries done as soon as we can. But the nice flexibility about us being a family-owned business, a smaller company, is we have that ability to deliver whenever we want. So if a customer needs it the next day, we may drop it off the day before or something along those lines to help satisfy that demand that I need it now type thing. We do a lot of online orders now that we've started doing, over the last several years. We're trying to get to the point where, like some of the LRCs, you can call stuff off by pushing a button on your cell phone, and we'll get the text and we'll be out there and get it done. The challenge is making sure that we're on time, because again, we sell service. I don't want to mess up my customers, but that's our main product is service. So we have to make sure that we're on top of it.
So you'd say you've still been able to retain that flexibility and adaptability as an independent, even now of increasing to 8 stores?
Yes, definitely. And looking forward to the future of possibly growing more stores is our plan.
Robert, this really flows into the evolution of technology in the equipment rental industry. You mentioned with the introduction of the ARA's industry analytics and artificial intelligence has allowed you to make better decisions in your rental operation. With the ARA's growing library of courses and certification classes available through Rental U has allowed you to further train, retain, and increase the motivation of your most valuable asset, your employees, through further digital education. Robert, something that's really sparked my interest, with a tool shed being founded in the early 40s, I'm sure you've undergone and had quite the digital and technology transformation to where we are today.
Oh yeah, we definitely have. From the handwritten contracts, actually when my grandfather started, I think most everything was done on a handshake, to be honest with you. There was just say, yeah, go ahead and take it, bring it back and pay me. So compared to what it is now with everything being done digitally, it's just a huge change in our industry, and the amount of software that's being written now. We were limited by how many companies would write software for our industry for so many years, and now there are several software companies to choose to run your industry, whether it's just maintenance, whether it's you know, a full program or not. So that's been a big change in our industry, is the software to help run the businesses. So yeah, and now we'll see what AI is going to bring in the future. That was a big focus of the many of the speakers at this year's show was artificial intelligence, and where things like ChatGPT are going to take us in the future. And it's a concern to some people, but it's an opportunity for a lot of others. So it's just technology used in the proper way is a fantastic tool. The problem is it's not always used in the proper way. So that's our challenge.
Absolutely. Robert, I recently saw a group of ARA members in California discussing and highlighting issues that are impacting both the equipment and event rental industries at the federal level, with the ARA's National Legislative Caucus in Washington, D.C., and at the state level with the ARA of California State Legislative Day, with both your daughter Megan and son Rob a part of this dedicated group. They mentioned that there are deadlines approaching regarding the state's transition from traditional fueled to zero emission and alternative fueled machines. Josh Nickel also provided an example of how inflation paired with US tariffs on lower cost aerial lift supplies has really impacted the local independent. Robert, whilst here on the Rental Journal, I guess we have more of a globalized audience. I think the impact of California standards and mandates, it really has a flow-on effect to not only the global market, but the global economy. I've personally seen back home in Australia on a construction site in our small town of regional Queensland, it was a 40-year-old HVAC system, and it had a stamped tag, and it said aligned to the California standard, which this highlighted to me the immense impact that California has had on the global marketplace dating back over 40 years, which is crazy for me to see, and I think it's so important to consider. So with these regulations that are being implemented, how are they currently impacting the rental industry? Because there's a good chance it's going to start flowing into Australia, Europe, and other parts of the world over the next decade.
There's a good possibility. It tends things that start in California tend to flow around the world. I think that parts of Europe are already ahead of California at this point on some of the air standards and things along those lines. They surpassed California a while ago, but the California mandates are still started there, and they do flow across the United States, and I imagine they will touch into other areas, especially concerning the new battery requirements to have all of California automobiles be electric by 2035, I believe it is. So I think it's a great goal. Don't get me wrong. Do I think it's feasible? Nah, not really. They're pushing to get that way, but that's in the automotive industry. On the construction side, it's a completely different ballgame. Yes, there's lots of people getting involved in the new battery technology and everything else. The problem still is the runtime on them. And when you get out into a job site, you don't have power out there to begin with. So you're still running a generator. You're still going to have to bring in power to charge all this stuff up. It still has a shorter runtime. It may get there in the future, but right now I think it's still very much in its infancy. And we'll see where it goes in the next five to 6 years. We'll see some changes. We have already had to start making some changes in California in our business. With all of the smaller equipment, because that was another mandate that came into play in 2025. So we're no longer able to buy a gas-powered lawnmower, say. They're not in California. It's got to be electric, so whether it's corded or battery, there are no gas lawnmowers. There are no gas air blowers being sold. Those things are all banned in California now. If you have one, great, you can use it until it dies, but you won't be able to buy a new one. You can go to Home Depot and they don't have any gas-powered lawn equipment on their shelf. It's all electric, all battery or corded machines now. So a good example is one of the companies that was on the showroom floor. They used to have gas-powered cutoff saws. No longer. It's completely out of their thing. They have no gas products at all. It's battery, or it's been taken off of out of their fleet. Yeah. So those are some changes that we've seen in California already, and it's going to come across the world. You can go on the showroom floor today, and there was a lot of companies out there showing off their battery-powered equipment. So.
Yeah, from my perspective, sometimes the goals and aspirations just still don't align with the performance that we're able to do, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So.
Robert, a tool shed has successfully grown in the capable hands of 4 generations. Your eldest son, Robert, joining the business in 2018, and daughter Megan continuing and coming from a different background in the exercise space.
Megan yes. She worked for a company that she ran all the programs, exercise programs for Tesla, and built programs for Tesla for 3-4 years before COVID shut that program down. Otherwise, she might have still been there, to be honest with you. She actually always wanted to work in the family business, but that was she got her master's in that field, and we told her to go out and explore that field first. And she was quite successful at it until COVID shut it down, and then she was able to come back to the family business, which was in her heart anyway. So, and she's done very, very well with us. And our son Robert was had a career in the Navy, and he decided he wanted to be a family man, come back home, raise his family, and join the family business. And so that's where he's at. So they both had very successful careers before coming back to run our business.
Which is amazing to see, but sadly though, if we look statistically, less than 30% of family businesses make it to the 2nd generation, and less than 13% make it to the 3rd generation. Thankfully, you guys are a successful outlier, but how have you been able to balance this dynamic of legacy and innovation, and how can family businesses evolve and adapt to industry trends whilst staying originally rooted in values and staying rooted in tradition?
You know, it's always a challenge, but it's family first for us. And honestly, moving forward and things like the technology and the innovations and things like that, they come into play. But it's always been family first, and that's the way we've always treated our employees. Also, they're team members, but they're also we consider them part of our family, our work family. I mean, we've had 2 or 3 generations of employees that have worked for us. So I've had their parents, their children, and now some of their grandchildren work for me. So it's an amazing business to be in. So that's what's held us together all this time, family first.
Robert, less than a third of family-owned businesses have a formal succession plan. What level of importance do you plan on having a clear plan, and how have you incorporated mentorship, training, and building a long-term vision for your company's future, assisting in the creation and the success, obviously, of the continuation of your business?
I put together a succession plan twice. The first one was before I knew my kids were going to come into the business, and that was to sell the business. So we had that plan in place. We had a certain timeline that my wife and I were ready to, turn it over. We had put in let's say we've got 5 years left. We're going to put it in, and then we would build it and sell at that point. Well, then my children changed their minds and their career path and decided they wanted to come and work in the family business. Well, that changed everything. So then the next succession plan came into place, and that was to pass the business on to them. We sat down, talked to them. I gave them a timeline, a very specific timeline that I was going to work on. And that was, it was a 5-year timeline, and then 2 years, 5 years behind the desk, and then 2 years of paid consultant, let's put it that way, to clean out my office. During that time, I want to continue. They are already 50% owners in the company, so they will completely own the company by the time I'm out. In 3 more years, it'll be their company. And then as long as I get the rent checks for the property, we'll be happy. But it is a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It's not. I don't take it lightly. The transition planning, working with your attorneys, working with your accountants. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that planning to make it successful. I've seen several other businesses, not just in the rental industry, just fail because they do not plan, and they have an entrepreneur that built their business. In my case, I'm 3rd generation. I wasn't the one that started the business. Yes, my heart's in the business, but I didn't build it. We've already gone through a couple of transitions. Unfortunately, the other 2 transitions were done with the death of the leader. So that's how I came in, and I do not want to transfer that way to my children. So we're working to make sure that doesn't happen. So it'll be the first transition in our company that didn't transfer via the death of the leader. So don't take it lightly, because I have seen several of them fail, and either through auctions or just shutting the doors or things like that, because there's so much that gets involved with taxes and things like that. And if you just wait thinking, oh, I'll get to it, anything can happen. You know, you just never know when something might change, and if you're not prepared, the business will go away because the next generation isn't prepared to inherit it.
Robert, what have you really experienced, recognised or correlated as some common mistakes that families do make during this succession planning process, from the formalising side of the process to the legal, the financial side? And we should probably also mention the importance of emotional considerations, which play a huge factor in family business decisions.
I think you touched on the last one, emotional. I spoke about the taxes and things like that. I think that's probably the easiest thing, because people can sit down and talk about taxes. But when you talk about the emotional part, about dying, you're going to die. Okay, you got to pass it on at some point. So those are hard conversations to have with your children if you're passing it on to your children. They really are. And it's also emotionally hard for the leader like in my case, I've been running the business for 40 plus years, to let go.
It's your baby.
Yeah, so it's tough. You know, I put the plan in place, I feel good, everything's good, it's there, it's lined up, but it's still hard. It's hard to let go. So, and one of those things that when we talked about our plan, it was there to force me to let go. I do not want to get in the way of the next generation and how they can build that business going forward. And that's why I put in the strict timelines that I did. Can I stick to them? I hope so.
Well, taxes are black and white, right? There's a clear direction, whereas that emotional side, like you said, even after a clear plan, it's still hard to be pried away from it.
Yes, it is. It's a great industry, and it's really hard to leave. So, yeah.
Robert, what's really sparked my interest and your love and your multi-generational support and dedication to rental, why did you recommend to your children to pursue pathways initially externally to your business and outside of the rental industry prior to joining the family business, or continuing on with the succession plan after yourself? And from your perspective, what impact has this pathway had for your children, gaining external experience and external points of view and having their own lives and developing as individuals prior to actually taking over your business?
Oh, it's fantastic. We'd always said that, and it was something that I'd learned years ago, probably at an ARA conference or something, was to make sure that your children had experience in another field or somewhere else before they came to work for your family business, because they grew up in the family business. They know what the family business is. They know the ups and downs. They've watched my wife and I work through different things. So they already know that, and they need to go out and experience something else to make sure that this is really what they wanted to come back to and run. And both of them, we weren't sure they were going to come back. That was their decision to come back after they both had very successful, very different careers. So that's one thing that I definitely recommend anybody in a family business do before their next generation passes into the business. Yeah, it's convenient sometimes to have your son or daughter come in and help and work, and the next thing you know, they've been there for 10 years or whatever. But I still think it's a much better for them and for the business to have them go get some outside experience and bring that experience back with them to the business to help that business grow in ways that they would not have known if they just continued on their day-to-day, working in the family business that they've known their whole life.
Robert, a tool shed's mission statement is to create exceptional customer experience by providing quality equipment and superior service. Linking to this conversation that we've just had on succession planning and this continuation of your preserved values, customer service and love for the rental industry, I'm sure has provided you an incredibly loyal and, like you said, multi-generational, not only employees, but customer base back home in Santa Cruz. Robert, who are some key individuals or people you'd like to mention that have impacted you personally, your business, and assisted in the success of a tool shed over the last 8 decades?
Oh, geez, there's so many I could thank, but one of them was here for just this last week to hear my speech. He retired just a couple of years ago from us, and he worked with me, worked with my dad for 42 years before he retired. Bruce Harmon and his family, and his brother worked for me for 43 years. He worked for me for a little bit longer than his brother because he was competitive and wanted to. He's the younger brother. He wanted to work just a little bit longer for our family business than his brother did. Over the years, I've had many family members, brothers, work together for our business, and like I said earlier, the generations, 3 generations of people working for our family business. So there's just all of our employees are just so important to us. That's the heart of our business, of our family business. It really is. It's our employees. So, yeah. And then my dad, boy, what a mentor. He was my hero. I missed him a lot. He passed away too young at 67, very unexpectedly, and that was hard to transition into because we were working side by side, day to day, plans to grow the business together, do things, and then unfortunately, 2 years after he passed away, my middle brother, who I also work with on a day-to-day basis, growing the business, passed away. So there's been some difficulties that I've had to deal with, and that our company's had to deal with over the years, but they were a big part of the family business, and a part of me growing and staying in the business. Again, I wasn't planning on staying in the family business. I had other goals. I was on my way to do something else, and my dad called me in, and I worked with my brother. We opened our first store in between what I was on my way to go do. I was on my way to be an attorney, and the next thing I know, I was building my second store with my brother, and then our third store, and I never went back, and I don't regret it at all. So.
Amazing, Robert. Congratulations, and what a well-deserved honour with your recent induction as ARA President. You said that I've spent my whole life in the rental industry, and this association is where I've chosen to invest my time and energy. It's my time to give back. Prior to today's episode, I actually reached out to Scott Irwin, past ARA President, Chairman, and 50-plus year member of the ARA, on a piece of advice that he could offer you as you embark on your ARA presidency. Scott said that Robert is 100% prepared to assume the role of ARA President. The only advice I could give him is to enjoy every minute of the ride because it comes and goes too quickly. Robert, take advantage of every opportunity the ARA offers. Robert, I'm sure you're absolutely thrilled and over the moon to be, and undeniably excited for this journey going forwards.
Yes, I am, and I'd also like to thank again my wife Barbara and our children as they've grown and worked into the business, because they've allowed me to do this. And I worked side by side with my wife for many years. We had a party rental company that she ran, and we've worked side by side. Now a lot of people can't say that about the husband and wife, but we've worked side by side for 41 years. So actually, it's longer than that, 42 years. Anyway, it's been quite a ride. So. I'm looking forward to the future that ARA has to offer, and I'm hoping I can give back and contribute to the association that's given so much to my family for the last 6 decades. So.
Yeah, well, Robert, yourself and your family have been involved in the ARA for over 62 years, assisted in the formation of the California Rental Association, have been actively involved in the rental community for decades. Yourself sitting as the Region 10 Director, part of the CRA Board of Directors, worked with the ARA Government Affairs Committee and co-chaired the ARA Shared Interest Group. Scott described you as a great example of giving back to the industry, but with this exposure has also provided you with an environment of being around other successful industry leaders and have assisted your growth and the development of your business. Robert, like we mentioned earlier, now your children are not only involved in the business, but extremely involved in the rental community, building a strong foundation for the 4th generation and for a tool shed to continue as an industry leader. But Robert, how has your involvement in specifically the rental community impacted you personally, your family, and the growth of your business?
Oh, tremendously. Like I said, we've been involved in the ARA since 1963. And shoot, I remember going to my first ARA show. I was in a stroller. My parents were rolling me around. Well, the same thing with our kids. I took our kids to their first ARA show, and they were in strollers, all 3 of them. So over the years, we've had a lot of involvement with the association and what it's given to our family in the industry. Let's see, the people that we meet at the show, whether it be the rental professionals or the suppliers on the showroom floor, and those friendships that we've made over the years have greatly influenced myself, my family, my children, the way that we do business, the education that we've received that the associations have offered over the years have just been fantastic. They have definitely helped us grow our business. And I don't know that we could have done it without the help of the association in some cases. I really put that much emphasis on the associations that we've been involved with.
Robert, Scott also really credits and thanks you for the advice you provided him, inspiring him to get involved and advocate for the rental industry regarding government issues locally and at the state level in Michigan and at the national level during his presidency. And from Scott's time at the state level, the committee got legislation passed which removed personal property tax on rental businesses and achieved a preferred line item tax system. And Scott said this would not have happened without your inspiration and initial advice. Robert, this contribution, and you've had such an impact.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Scott and I, we met a long time ago at one of the ARA caucuses in Washington, D.C., and we got along really well, and we were there to try and pass legislation, or in this case, stop legislation from going forward. Kept in touch all those years, and he's done a great job. He was a great president for ARA, but he's done more on the state level that's really helped out that state. And that's what our focus going forward is going to be, is to really help a lot of the states face those issues on the state level, whether it be taxes or fees or whatever might come up at the state level. That's where I feel the association can help make the biggest impact on the bottom line of several rental businesses, especially the smaller single-store operations. A lot of them won't even know that this stuff is being passed in their state. And the next thing you know, they get a tax bill. And it's like, wait, what's happening here? So we're really trying to step in front of that and stop some of these things from happening at the state level. We'll follow the national agenda also to make sure that the national tax laws and things like that are still favorable for our industry. But we're really trying to make a push like Scott has done and been successful in his state and in all of the states that we're involved in.
Robert, I also had a chat with Tom Wood from Camden Hire back home in Australia, who you recently hosted at a tool shed 12 months ago, hosting Tom for the exchange program between the ARA and Australian Hire Association. And a quick congratulations should go out to Camden Hire for recently being awarded the Australian Hire Company of the Year award, which was a massive achievement and also an independent run family operation down home in Australia. But Tom mentioned that he noted slight variations in the strategies between Camden and a tool shed, which really opened his eyes with divergencies in product segments and locality-specific demand drivers. But when comparing values, and especially comparing culture, you almost perfectly align to deliver high-quality equipment, exceptional service, and an emphasis on your team. Robert, I wanted to share a bit of a thank you note from Tom on his journey with yourself. I will never be able to thank the Pedersen family and the Toolshed team enough for the experience they gave me, the knowledge and skills they taught me, and for the wonderful friends I now have in California. I'm so grateful for the effort they went to make my experience memorable and enjoyable. They welcomed me into their home like I was a part of their family. I'm greatly looking forward to seeing them in 2026 when they come to Australia. Robert, how have these international relationships, and you also mentioned just before Neville and Andy Kennard meeting your grandfather back in the 50s. How has this ultimately helped you gain these lifetime friendships along the way?
Oh, it's been fantastic, and the program that was put together for the ARA Association to do the exchange, which I think you were part of also, it's just been fantastic. And being able to meet Tom and bring him over to the United States and show him how, a little bit of how we operate in our family was fantastic. He definitely fit into our family and our culture. The only issue I had is when he was working at our counter and spoke over the PA system to call out what was going out with his Australian accent. Many of our employees looked up and said, "What?" They didn't understand what he was calling out and what they were expected to do. He caught them off guard, but they got used to it while he was working the counter there. It's a great program, and like I said, the friendships that we made over the years, it goes back to like my grandfather, and Neville Kennard. He came out, and I believe it was 58, somewhere in there, to visit rental yards in California, Southern California, and then my grandfather in Northern California, made friends with them. My grandparents actually traveled back to Australia to meet with them for a trip, and it's just grown like that forever. We go back in the business. I mean, my grandfather bought one of the first trenchers from Ed Malzahn out of the back of his station wagon back in 1950, I believe it was. So that's Ditch Witch. That was the beginning of the Ditch Witch Corporation, and that was our family, one of the ones that bought one of the first trenchers out of his thing. We go back with another manufacturer, Genie, back to when they first had air jacks. That was one of their first products. We were one of their first customers. So there's a whole bunch of firsts when you think about how old our family business is in the industry, and how it's grown, and what we've worked with, the different people that are. Several of them are still here. Unfortunately, some of them aren't, but several of them are still making their product and selling it to our industry. So.
Amazing, Robert. You mentioned in a recent ARA article that your main focus as president is to get members excited, and that increasing the awareness of key programs is your main goal. And Tom also mentioned how your daily demonstration of unbelievable leadership has forever impacted his life and his approach to his leadership in the near future, saying that as we walked around the yards of a tool shed, Robert always stopped to talk to every single employee. He would begin by asking how they'd been and what's been happening outside of work and how their family was. Then he would specifically ask what additional resources or assistance from leadership they may need to do the best job possible. Finally, he would encourage them, thank them for everything they did and the hard work they did. Each employee seemed uplifted, listened to, and valued. This was perhaps some of the best practical leadership I'd ever been demonstrated. It was incredible to see how a 2-minute conversation could drastically improve an employee's outlook and sense of value. Robert, you've made quite the impact directly and indirectly via your daily actions, dedication to your business and the industry. But looking to the future, what are you most excited about going forwards in your presidency, the mark you would like to leave on the ARA, and your future aspirations with Rob, Megan, the family, and team back home in Santa Cruz?
Yeah, well, with the ARA, one of our focuses this year is in 2025. The board, that we have a challenge on the board, and that is to set the foundation for the next 5 to 6 years by reviewing our strategic goals, and that's going to be quite a challenge to review it, revise it if needed, and guide the association into the future using those strategic goals in mind. One of my personal things that I want to have everybody do is get involved. Okay, on the state, especially on the state level. There is so much that you can do on the state level by going to a state meeting and getting involved with other rental professionals on that level. Like I said, you never know what you might find out when you meet other rental people in that networking environment on a state level, because those are local issues. Those are things that are really going to affect your bottom line. The show here, don't get me wrong, there's lots of networking opportunities and things like that here at the national show, and most of the rental companies, the members do attend, the national show, but a lot of them can't. It's a travel, it's a commitment. But within their state, the state is not that far. They do have get-togethers and meetings and stuff like that. So I think to get involved with the association and the programs that it has to offer, that's my main focus. It's just for the members to get involved. Get up, get involved. So yeah, and as far as the future for our family, oh man, I'm excited. I can't wait to watch what they do. Our youngest daughter is not in the business. She's she's career Navy. She was able to come out and join us for the ARA show this year, which was fantastic. I was really happy that she was be here. She just got back off deployment, and she was able to be here. Kind of surprised me and touched my heart. But Rob and Erica. Rob and Megan, Erica's our youngest. Rob and Megan they're doing a great job. I hear a lot of good things from vendors and everybody else that they've worked with for the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm pretty proud of them.
Amazing, Robert. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Enjoy finalising your 2025 show. Circus LA tonight, and best of luck for your first year as president. I look forward to seeing you in Australia soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.